when I was finishing up my studies, my bachelor's studies in Canada, I was accepted to go on a work program to Brazil. The way it worked, though, was a little complicated because I'd been accepted to go in the spring. I had everything planned, but then things were canceled. So I was, thought it wasn't going to happen. So I went and I was working in the north of Canada, way, way far up north. And halfway through the summer, my dad called me and he said, the exchange association, they called and they said they found another job. If you want to still go to Brazil, you can. You just have to change things. So I was working. I was making money to pay for the next things. I said, okay, I'll do that. So it was a little confusing. Anyways, the bottom line is when the time came, early September, I flew from northern Canada back to where my parents live, where I was living. And then I was there for 1 or 2 days, and then I left for Brazil. And I'd been working. I wanted to work as long as possible to make as much money as possible so that I could travel and do things. So I remember going to the airport and was waiting. I had a couple hours before my flight. And I remember thinking, what language do they speak in Brazil? I think it's Portuguese, right? So I went into the bookstore and I bought a little book. It says, English, Portuguese, to learn how to, ask where the bathroom was and things like that, right? And I figured, okay, it was like a 9-hour flight, so I figured, okay, I'll read some of that and study some so that when I get there, And as we were flying, so I'm in the plane, we're flying there, and thinking, what kind of money do they use in Brazil? Because I didn't have any, I had American dollars, but I didn't have any, whatever money they used, right? And then as we were, just going further, and I realized, I forgot the address of where I'm supposed to go. And I don't have the phone number either. And then I was landing in Sao Paulo, and then from Sao Paulo I had to take another flight to Porto Alegre, which is where I was supposed to be working. And, well, actually, no, I was working in another city, but I had to fly into Porto Alegre because it was the closest airport. And I was getting in at 8 p.m., and I had a backpack with, everything I had. And I didn't have any money. Well, I had American money, but I have different Brazilian money. I wonder if they take American money. I didn't know where I was going to sleep that night. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going to work because everything had been changed, so I forgot to bring the new phone number and stuff. This is before cell phones, right? Way before cell phones. So I remember getting to the airport in Porto Alegre. It's already 8 o'clock at night. It's dark. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So I'm just kind of walking slowly to the baggage claim, and my backpack comes out. And as I'm picking up, I'm thinking, I put it on my back, and then I hear, Timothy? Like, what? Turn around, there's a young man standing there. He says, are you Timothy? I said, yeah, who are you? He says, I'm Andre. You're going to stay with my family. Come on, we got the car outside. Okay. But when I heard that Timothy, my name called, suddenly my world changed because I went from not knowing what was going to happen. I was going to sleep outside and someone was going to come and cut my throat and kill me, or I didn't know what was going to happen, to suddenly, the world was different. Today's gospel, Mary, her world is destroyed. Christ is dead. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what she's going to do. She's in that, she sees Jesus, thinks he's the gardener. Yeah, if you took his body, let me know and I'll get it. Like, what's she going to do? And then she hears her name, and suddenly her world has changed. Suddenly, everything is different, right? This is the power of the resurrection. This is what happens when Christ speaks my name, right? He says, Jose, Pablo, right? Emmanuel, each one of us. And he has said our name, right? Last night we were having dinner together, first-year humanists, and Jesus was speaking. And we were talking about the missions in New York City that we had. And he said, when we're talking to these people, we know Christ. We have met him. That makes a big difference. When we talk about Jesus, we know him. We know he's alive. We know he exists. And that makes all the difference in the world. So when we go to tell people, we go to talk to them, we might be afraid, we might be nervous, but we have something that we need to share, and that's what Jesus says. Go to my brothers and tell them. Why did Jesus? I mean, Jesus could have just, if I'd been Jesus, I would have resurrected like that, and everyone would have seen me like, I'm all powerful, right? But that's not what Jesus did. No one was there. No one saw the resurrection. Like, why? If you're like all-powerful God, wouldn't you want to like people to know, kind of show off a little bit? But that's not what he did. And then he appears, the first person he appears to is Mary, who probably was a prostitute. He doesn't even appear to Peter first. And he sends Mary to go talk to Peter and James and John and all the other ones. And then he sends the other one. Why? It's one of the mysteries. The resurrection. Remember the David Hughes when he came and spoke about the resurrection to us, or the liturgy? Right? And he talks about the first song on Easter Sunday. It's like, Resurrex. It's very subtle, but building up. That very subtle announcement of the resurrection has changed everything. But the way God works is through simple things, humble things. It's like right now, it's so beautiful living in the northern hemisphere, because this time of year when we're celebrating the resurrection, look at the trees. And especially the next couple of days, they're going to be hot. In a couple of days, you're going to see they're gone from dead, and there's little buds, and they're coming out, and the flowers are coming out. You're like, how did that happen? And from one day to the next, it's already new. That's the resurrection working. And each one of us has experienced the resurrection. That's why we're sitting in this chapel right now, wearing black dresses, right? Because otherwise we wouldn't be here. We have heard Jesus pronounce my name. The resurrection is alive. Sometimes we forget it, but it is alive, and it's working in me and through me. And Jesus today is saying to you, each one of you, Brother Christian, Brother Anthony, Brother Stephen, each one of you, you do. Right? It says, go to my brothers and tell them. Go to my brothers and tell them. And the first thing Mary says is, I have seen the Lord. I know him, and he's alive. No matter what they said to her, and Mary, because you read the Gospel of Mark, and it says she went to tell them, and they didn't believe her. She didn't care. I know he's alive. And then Jesus rebukes them later, says, bunch of goofs. I sent Mary to tell you. Oh yeah, sorry. Right? But it's not our job to, we're to tell people. If they believe us or not, that's Jesus' problem. But I know he's alive, and I've come to tell you. And that's the power of the resurrection working in the world through us. And so, gentlemen, we have a mission. We're apostles, right? We're legionaries. We're called to form apostles. What does that mean? Just go tell other people, I know he's alive, he said my name, and he's calling you to.